Hey everybody, this is the first episode of Slightly A Ways North, and I'm actually trying to act like a TV host, because for the last 20 years working in television, I've generally been the idiot behind the camera. So for those of you like me that grew up in Ontario, my earbuds are falling out here, of a certain age, you probably grew up watching TVO Kids, and then before the crawl space, you probably remember The Elephant Show and Eric's World. And for those of us that were a little bit more into the cooler side of things, we all gravitated to Eric Nagler, who entertained us all with the Sewerphone. And then those of us that became musicians later realized just how unbelievably frigging hard it is to play anything that doesn't have valves. And then we were even more jealous on top of it. And I don't know how many instruments Eric plays, banjo, auto harp, basically every instrument I can't play. So if you will welcome our very first special guest, which I'm really thrilled to have, Eric Nagler, everybody. Eric, thank you for joining me today for this first one and putting up with my crap. So I guess we'll just start with,
I want to start with...
Oh yeah, go ahead.
I want to start with a secret.
Yes.
About the Sewerphone.
Oh, please do.
It is not a difficult instrument to play. The Sewerphone really doesn't have very much sound. I mean, it doesn't have notes. So when I go, you hear da 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 dun 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 dun. But the Sewerphone hasn't done that.
So it's psychological to some degree.
It's quite psychological, yeah. So people think it's fantastic and it's difficult, and they go, there's some incredible melodies. But no, the melodies were all in your head.
That's fair. But the other thing, too, is you're still able to get some tone out of it without, it's like you must have like the embouchure from hell.
Nah, just use a hose nozzle, an old brass hose nozzle.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
My dad used to. You tricked my dad too, because my dad.
Oh, did I?
Oh yeah. My dad used to turn around and say, "Geez," and he was actually quite a decent trumpet player. He wasn't professional. He could have been. He was one of those guys. I found out many years later when I was in my 20s. He turned around. I found out that he had actually auditioned for the National Arts Center Orchestra. I guess this would have been probably the late 70s. And they actually said some fairly nice things to him, because I ran into some people that were with the NAC Orchestra later, and they're like, yeah, David Carlick, he was actually pretty good. But my dad heard, you suck, as opposed to, you're really good, can you come back next year, try again, we really like what you did. So he didn't hear between the lines.
Yeah.
How did you come up with something like that, Eric? Because I know that's one thing that all of us remember. Elephant Show and onward.
Yeah, well, the Reverend, the Reverend Ken played an instrument called Sewerphone, which had a kitchen sink on the end of it. Mm-hmm. But I went to buy a kitchen sink. Even a used one was like $23. That was too much. I found the agitator to a washing machine looked like a horn, so I got that for a lot cheaper. But that's where I got it. The Reverend Ken, he had a kids concert and also an adult concert, and the kids concert, it was called a Sewerphone or the Sewerphone, and the adults concert, it was called a fallopian tuba. But it was the same instrument.
I didn't say anything.
Yeah, it was the same instrument, a lot of the same songs, and he lived in the Ottawa Valley for a while. Yeah.
No way.
And I got from Washboard Hank. Are you familiar with him?
Yes. Yeah, I am.
He was in the band as well, and I got a washboard from Washboard Hank, and he's out in that neighborhood as well. Yeah.
He was around pretty much forever.
That's how that started.
And it played well, unintended, or no pun intended and pun, I suppose.
Right.
So you've got a pretty interesting background, which most of us don't know. I'll let you take the lead. How did you start, going from the beginning? Because you kind of arrived, you were a folk musician, and you have a pretty interesting history dating back to the 60s. I'll let you go into as far as you want to, but I think it's a really interesting story. And I'd like to hear your version of events as to how you wound up here, basically, leading on to the 80s and beyond. Tell me how it started, Eric.
Okay. It started with I just loved music. I loved music. We had a piano in the house, and I loved playing on the piano. And when I was just a little tiny kid, I would bang on the piano, and my father would come home from work, and he would complain to my mother, and she would make me stop. But when they would go to work, my grandmother was there, and I'd be banging on the piano, and she'd say, "Play the Tennessee Waltz." She'd say, "I love it," and so I would bang a little quieter, and she would say, "That's beautiful." And so I learned how to play the Tennessee Waltz, and when my mother saw that, she decided I was a genius, and then I had to take lessons. But I hated lessons, and so I rejected the piano because I couldn't stand the lessons. I came home one day from junior high school. A friend of mine was in a band, and he had a saxophone, and I loved it. And I said, "I want to play the saxophone." They all wanted me to play an instrument. My mother said, "Saxophone is not a valid instrument. It doesn't. It's not in the orchestra."
And you try it.
Play the clarinet instead. And so I tried it, and I hated it. I don't know, the embouchure, and this note is too sharp and this note is too flat. I didn't like the teacher. I gave it up. My next foray was I heard Charlie Mingus playing the Haitian Fight song on the bass. I just loved it. And my mother said, "The bass sits in the back of the orchestra and it plays one note. Play the cello instead." And they got me a cello. And I didn't come home that night. I knew that my dad had brought a cello from his school, and I just didn't come home, and the cello sat there for a little while, and then it disappeared. But okay, now I'm up to 14 years old. This might take a long time.
That's okay. I really want to hear it as a musician.
Okay. You
want to hear it all?
You can edit it.
Yeah, we can. You probably won't.
So anyway, I'm up in my room. I'm supposed to be doing my homework, and I heard this incredible sound from downstairs. And I threw down my comic. I ran downstairs, and it was a friend of my brother's, my older brother, and he was playing the banjo, and it was called Scruggs Picking, and it was like 1,000 notes were coming out of the banjo, and they were just all jumping into my heart, and like from then on, I don't know, you're in school and you're doing a geography test, and your heart is going thump 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 thump. My heart is going do 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 ding 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 and I played it all with my fingers on the desk. People would hear me. They'd say, "Hey, Eric, stop that noise." But anyway, that's how I got the banjo, and my mother had no substitute for it. I mean, it just was totally out of her realm of understanding, and in a way, that's the way I grew up as a teenager, being out of the realm of understanding of my parents. Now you have a big dog, eh?
Yeah, I have a huge dog. He's flying over there.
I have one too, and he wants to come in. and I think I need to give him a treat.
Aw,
So
please do.
behind. Yeah, okay.
I don't know if Tilk will fit in this little crevice. We'll try and bring him in after.
So, did you want to come in? Here, Toby, come and say hello. I know you're
Aw.
looking for food, but there he is.
Oh my God, he's beautiful.
Yeah.
Is he a Pyrenees?
Yes. No, he's the other side. He's the Italian version.
Oh.
He's called a Marinano.
Oh my God.
Did you just see him? I can hear you, by the way.
Oh, no worries.
You want this?
No worries.
You want this? Can you see here? Come over here.
Oh my God.
Jump for the guy. All right, now just lie down, okay? Because I'm talking.
Well, that's all he's doing. I'll bring him over without him crashing over everything. The cat sort of fits in here, and oh my God, he's gorgeous. So your guy's, he's sort of like
He's
Belle and Sebastian, but with more tart wine.
uh-huh. He's
Here,
the
look,
guard of the
clickety.
house. Yeah.
And they will, too. They will. Our guy's,
One now. But he's the friendliest. He's absolutely the friendliest. He just wants to bark at you until you pet him. And then
Oh my
he's
God.
your best friend. Okay, now Toby, I need you to go lie down. Go lie down. One. Lie down there.
I know how that rodeo is. Tilka's just lying down in the kitchen. I'll bring him in and I'll swing the camera around maybe after. That's the nice thing about the internet, you know, we can just kind of let it go as long as it needs to go, and as long as you've got it. You don't even have to worry about tape anymore, you know?
Right, exactly.
So,
Yeah.
he's adorable. What do you feed him?
I feed him kibble and then scraps, whatever
Yeah.
we eat, whatever's left over. Yeah. And he likes to live outside on the porch and just watch for people in cars, which he doesn't get very often. Doesn't have a big job.
No, you probably wouldn't get too many people going through there.
No, we live deep in the country, really.
Yeah.
It's only about an hour and a half from Toronto, but it's in the woods, and yeah, there's no one else around. It's really nice.
Yeah, Emily grew up in Stayner for a bit.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
north of us.
Yeah.
And
You like vinegar.
I spent a lot of time in Killaloo.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know where that is.
I know where that is, yeah. I haven't spent a huge amount of time there, but I know where it is, and I've been through there. Mm-hmm. It's nice. Stayner's interesting depending on where you go. I don't know if it's changed much. There are some restaurants you go to, and then others you stay away from. But the area is pretty nice. I don't know if the vinegar factory is still there, though.
I don't know either, but it's quite a lovely town.
Yeah, it is. It's a beautiful town. Beautiful town, and it's a beautiful area. Actually, she moved around a fair bit in that area, because I think she grew up around Toronto, like in Leaside, so I make fun of her for that. But then, like me, like when she was about 10, like 8, 10, they moved out to the country. And so they were in Stayner for a bit, and then Meaford, which is, you know, also in that, I guess, general vicinity. And then I wasn't there myself, but I ended up being in that sort of Barrie/Utopia bit. But there's a lot of nice. You don't have to go that far out of Toronto. These nice communities. You don't have to wait 3.5 hours to move 2 kilometers on the Don either. How long have you been out there?
Well, I came out to this neighborhood when the Elephant Show was on, so that would have been the 80s somewhere. Yeah. And that would have been in the 80s. And my wife Diana built this house.
Wow. I was gonna comment that it's beautiful with all the big timbers and the beautiful big logs and everything. And
yeah. It's quite. We just love it. We love it here. It's it's interesting. It's like a Shangri-La in that. In Shangri-La, my memory is that this plane landed, in the Himalayas, and they found this valley where people were all beautiful and everything was gorgeous. But one guy who was actually a newspaper writer had to leave because he had to work, and his wife or his lover runs after him, and when she gets to the edge of the valley, she falls into dust because she's thousands of years old. And he goes and he does his business, and when he comes back, he can't find Shangri-La. And that's how I feel about this place. It's really beautiful and it's lovely. We're raising 2 grandchildren here, and it's just
that's fantastic,
delightful. But if we left, I'd love to take a year and travel. We'd never find it again. We'd never find this again.
It wouldn't feel the same.
So, it not only wouldn't feel the same, it wouldn't be the same. I mean, it's just the middle of the woods in an hour and a half from Toronto. It's just like we wouldn't find it.
Almost like the spirit kind of leaves when its guardian isn't there so much anymore, or at least some of it.
Well, spirit or no spirit, try to find a log house somewhere.
Not going to happen.
Yeah, right.
Would have been a bit of a commute.
Yeah. Say what?
I said it would have been a bit of a commute. Where did you film it? Because it was all over the place. That's the one thing I could never quite figure out where you guys filmed it when Cambium was doing it.
The Elephant Show.
Yeah.
And also Eric's World. Well, it was all filmed in Toronto.
Yeah.
And we would go off on location a lot for the Elephant Show. But I would go down, especially, for Eric's World, I would go down on Monday morning really early and come back Friday night. Well, actually Tuesday, because Monday they had a dark. So I would have Friday night, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday here, and then I would go down to the city to shoot. The Elephant Show was really weird because I was only on a portion of it.
Yeah.
And they kept calling me in the morning, and they didn't shoot me until the afternoon because they were always running late.
Sounds like TV.
Yeah. So when they were the next year when they were ready to shoot again, I said, no, you can't do this. You can't call me in the morning and make me spend the whole day. And but they did. That's what they did. So the third season, first of all, I doubled my fee, and
good on you.
And I took a little desk in the makeup. No, it was in costumes, and I wrote a book. I sat there and wrote a book, and they called me in the afternoon, and I would do my bit and go home. Yeah, so that solved that issue. That was the 80s.
You must have been going out of your mind in the 80s because you were everywhere. Because, I mean, a lot of us, when we were kids, we had all the tapes, we had the cassette tapes,
It was a magnificent time for children's music.
Yeah.
They were live. We were live. I was a live person, and so was Fred Penner, and so was Rap.
Yeah.
And so were all the others. And what happened is that the toy companies, the toy company is $1 billion business, and television is $1 million business. So it would cost us like $275,000 to make an Eric's World show.
Yeah.
And then we'd have to get the money back by selling it.
Yeah.
The toy companies they didn't care at all. They would make a cartoon. They didn't care. Wouldn't cost much anyway, but they didn't care what it cost because they weren't selling the TV shows. They were
selling the toys.
They were giving the TV shows away, and so we couldn't compete. The live entertainment couldn't compete with the cartoons, and so that's what killed a lot of that wonderful era of live entertainment for children in Canada.
Yeah, it's really too bad too. I mean, the one thing that I noticed, just going back and you don't really appreciate these things as a kid. And then you have to grow up and become an adult, and you go, "What the hell? This really sucks." But one of the things that I noticed once we started getting in orchestra contracting, and and I had to grow up and start working in television myself, was your band, Elephant Show, and your shows, they didn't phone it in. Like, there's a lot of bite, like a lot of these band members could have phoned it in. You and the rest of the band, none of them ever phoned it in. Like, you guys really had some bite. The piano player was going nuts, and the drummer was going crazy, and there's a real spirit. They were not phoning it in. That's one thing that I noticed.
Yeah, we enjoyed the music. We enjoyed making it, and we were good players.
Yeah.
And nothing was recorded. It was all live. We all played. We were all real players. Yeah. That's how I kind of got it. So what happened was, I was playing the banjo and loving the banjo, but what I really loved when I was a teenager growing up was fiddle tunes. I loved the violin, but I was scared of it because it's a really hard instrument. I would play every Saturday at Alan Block's sandal shop in Greenwich Village, and with a bunch of guys, and I just was learning how to play fiddle tunes on the banjo, but it didn't ring. They on a mandolin, they were the same notes as a fiddle. So I switched to mandolin, playing fiddle tunes on a mandolin, and then
no frets
on the guitar, and after a while, I guess I was almost 30 years old when I realized I was learning all of these instruments, but really I just wanted to play the fiddle. And so I finally bit the bullet and bought a fiddle at a junk shop in Toronto and started learning it. But that's why I play all of these different instruments, because I was, for some reason, seeking to play fiddle tunes and figuring I couldn't really do that on the fiddle. Which is actually true. The fiddle is really, really hard, and you could play it forever and still not be there. At least I could play it forever and still not be there. Yeah.
I can't play it at all. Just being in Lanark County, you've got all these Irish and Scottish guys. There was a pub. You might be familiar with it. It's in the Ottawa Valley. Are you familiar with the Ashton Pub?
No.
Barely. So they would get all these old Irish and Scottish guys that would come in. They would have these ridiculously crazy, amazing fiddle players and Celtic bands, but a lot of fiddlers, right? Because it's a Scottish and Irish area, and you'd get these guys, some of them in their 90s, and they'd go, I'm not very good, but I think I can probably put out a tune or two, and they would just burn it up, and it's like, I can't do that. And there was just, they just seemed to just know. Like, I never, the fiddle, and there would just be amazing fiddle player after fiddle player after fiddle player. And then there were a couple of times where they'd have some guys come in from like the NAC or whatever, really good violin players, and they'd be like, I'm not even going to try that.
Flabbergasted. Right.
Yeah.
I gave lessons. As a young, new fiddle player, I was giving lessons to Toronto Symphony Orchestra violinists, because they would be called to a session, an advertising session, and they'd be shown a chart, and they wouldn't know what that was. And they couldn't tell one chord from another, and you're listening to three chords, and they don't know how to do that, and so I would help them around what improvisation is.
Yep.
And sometimes I'd play in front of orchestras, the Toronto Symphony or Detroit Symphony, and the violinists would be flabbergasted that I'd just be running around, and the notes that I played would be different during rehearsal than on stage, but the chords would be the same. A lot of them just didn't get that, didn't understand.
Yeah, I'm smiling because I've run into a few of those guys. It's different. There's an analog, but it's different. How did you find kind of, there definitely would be some guys that it didn't quite click. Was there anything that stood out, not individual experiences, but was there anything overall that you found when you were trying to teach some of these violinists just how to kind of cross over a little bit and kind of work around it? Were there certain things you noticed and you saw?
They got it. The ones who came and they got it. They understood what the framework was. It wasn't as if they didn't know what a chord is, or an arpeggio. And so, they would get it. I wouldn't teach them for very long, but they needed to learn that. They needed to understand what improvisation is about.
If it ain't on the page, it ain't on the stage, but you have to be able to kind of grab onto it. And you did a fair amount of orchestra. You did quite a bit, I remember. I remember you were doing stuff, I think, with the Victoria Symphony, and I think you did you do some stuff with the NAC? I feel like you did. Memories are getting fuzzy with the sands of time here a bit, but
I may have done it, been on the stage with Sharon Lois and Bram, but I don't think I did. I don't think I did the NAC with my own symphony show.
It all counts.
I went down as far as we went down to Texas and into New York and lots of different places with it. Yeah.
I do remember when Sharon Lois and Bram went to Ottawa, they would use, now it's called Southam Hall. Used to be called the Opera. And it would be filled. It was like 1,200, however many seats, or I think it might have been more than that. And it was completely, totally full. It would be sold out a lot of time.
There was a theater down on the lake shore. I don't think it's there anymore. It was an amphitheater.
Yeah.
And Sharon Lois and Bram put more bodies in that amphitheater than any other concert artist because they were so small. You could fit more in.
I believe it. Was that on the lakeshore? Was that the Molson Amphitheater, or was that closer to like the Key?
It was the Molson Amphitheater, but it was a rotating stage.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's there anymore, but the rotating stage was a riot. We thought it would be great, and we're all set up and just, okay, there's people behind us, and that's fine because they can look around and they can see.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, we're doing a round, okay? We're doing little Bonnie somebody or other.
Yeah.
And so Sharon has one group and Lois has another and Bram has another, and they start teaching the song, and the stage is slowly going like this. So
that is so cool. See, all these Toronto kids got all this cool stuff, and we were just sitting watching it on TVO in like middle of nowhere, Ottawa Valley, going, how come all the Toronto kids get to do all this cool stuff? If we get to see it on TV, it's like you have candy and you can't actually eat any of it.
Yeah.
Oh, that is so cool.
Yeah, that was funny.
And it was on a long time, because there were like 2 or 3 iterations of it. Eric's World ran a fairly decent time too. Didn't it run until like 95? I feel like I remember it running until at least 95, like what, 95 or something like that?
We ran for 5 years, yeah. Go lie down, you. Sorry.
Don't apologize. I'm actually surprised that Tilk hasn't come over yet.
Do we have a couple of minutes because he's really pissed at me because it's time for him to have his lunch.
Yeah, that's no problem.
And that's why he's staring at me. At me, right?
I have a big giant dog myself. Yeah, we can we can.
I'll be right back.
No worries. Yeah. Eric, tell me what you're up to now.
Oh, okay. So I guess I'm semi-retired. I'm writing a lot, and my wife Diana, she's running. She and our kids downstairs are running a bed and breakfast here.
That's so cool.
And yeah, and when she designed the house, she made this downstairs one big room, as you can see, and that means we can have events here. And
yeah, it's huge.
Events, actually, for a long time, we were part of the Human Awareness Institute. We worked with them and for them, and we learned a great deal about intimacy and intimacy communications. Mm-hmm. And so there are several events that happen now. One that used to happen all the time when the Human Awareness Institute was quite active. It was called High Tea, and we would have it between July 1st and July 4th, and we'd invite all the American intimacy folks over, and we'd have a week of camping here, and so we still do that, and it is going to be. This time it's going to be June 27th to July 1st, because the weekends are so far apart now, and they're not on weekends. They're in the middle of the week. It makes it hard. But we're also, our next event, I think, is going to be a workshop on called, what is it called? Building Sexual Intimacy. And it's about, just how, if intimacy means into me, you see, then what do I need to do in order to be intimate with you? Is I need to let go of the armor that we wear, the weapons and the way that the ways that we protect ourselves. We protect ourselves from judgment, and so that's a lot of what the workshop is about. The workshop is about how we can find safe ways to open up, to be intimate with others, to let others see who we are, and that's what the workshop is about. And I'm really looking forward to it. It'll be a weekend, and it is May 6th. It's going to be May 23rd to 25th. We'll have it here. People will. We can fit. We can fit about a dozen people sleeping.
Wow, that's great.
House, and in the two bunkies that we have. So we will have that workshop, and it's really wonderful to be creating a community of people, like-minded people who looking for a place to really deeply and meaningfully be themselves. Yeah.
I think that's important. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. All right, go ahead.
Well, there are, I don't know. I think I would like to ask people to email me to find out when our events are, because there I can see that we've got a camping weekend coming up, and there's a spring hike and a fall hike, and people might like to come up and share those days with us. We're just on the edge of the Bruce Trail. And there's a big Bruce Trail property that we just border on. So there's great ways to take hikes and to experience the country. It's been really wonderful, people coming up from Toronto. And for us especially, for me especially, just to recognize how unique it is here. Because for them to be able to drive for an hour and a half and then spend a weekend in a tiny house, cooking outside and using the outhouse, but still being kind of glamorous in their camping, right in the middle of just woods, and hearing the coyotes on the other side of the valley at night, and Toby answering them and telling them to stay away and everything.
He would.
Yeah, we love that. We love the life that we're having here. Yeah, and we love inviting people to share it with us.
I think it's really good that you're doing what you're doing, because I think that there's a lot of people that don't maybe communicate as much as, I don't want to say as much as they should in their relationships, but I think open communication is really, really important. I think being able to kind of break down those walls just can assist in stronger relationships. People are going down and they're already open to be working on that, so it can only be positive, I would think, from there. It must be pretty rewarding doing what you're doing with that.
It is. I just like to say we don't break down walls, rather than we invite people to open their doors. Yeah. It is very rewarding. Yeah, it's very rewarding. I look forward to it. That's how I trained. I trained as a school psychologist. And I was doing a doctorate in counseling psychology at U of T when I left and opened a music store, and then became a musician, a professional musician. Yeah, so I'm kind of going back to my education back from the 60s. Yeah.
That's really cool, because everything kind of comes around full circle.
It kind of does with me. Yeah. So I feel like our culture has two really, really serious issues, and one of them is owning our behavior rather than blaming others.
Mm-hmm.
And blaming the world on our actions, and the other is that we're totally messed up sexually. This culture is just so screwed up. There are so many people totally afraid of their bodies, and trying to find ways of how to hold a lid on a fire. It doesn't work that way, you know. And so that's part of what we deal with, and part of what we get involved in. Yeah.
What kind of feedback do you get? You must get a lot of really positive feedback with these sessions and workshops that you have.
Yeah, people get a great deal out of the workshops. And the feedback is, we just get to experience and to be in friendship with some really wonderful, intimate people who trust. We trust each other, and we can be open with each other.
Well, that's really
something that I think we're losing more and more here. I thought that when the internet happened, it would give us an opportunity to be able to connect across the world, which we have. But what we're connecting is greed and barbs and defensiveness and possessiveness. Yeah, and especially just not being able to tolerate other people's point of view. It's quite nuts, really. Yeah.
You can't even have it's very difficult. I wouldn't say you can't, but I would say you can't. You can't have, or at least it's very rare, be able to have an intelligent conversation and be able to kind of either meet in the middle somewhere, or be able to say, you know what, I don't agree with you, but I see your point, and it's interesting that we can talk about these things. Either you see it my way, or you're dead to me, really.
We go kind of beyond that. We go beyond that. You're talking about what people say to each other and the thoughts and concepts that they have. You're talking about the philosophies and the spiritual beliefs that they have. What we're going is underneath into the feelings, into the needs, the drives, the emotions, Because if I want to argue with you about what's the better or worse camera or car or way of having a country, that's just all in philosophy. And what I go by is that in any communication, there is the issue and there is the person, and we immediately go to the issue. Diana comes in and she says, "I'm furious. The car, just gave up on me." And I'll go, "Okay, where's the car? How do we do with the car?" With all of this stuff about the issue.
Yeah.
When I could have stopped for a minute and just took in how frustrated and how angry she felt, and to let her know that I hear that. Because when you're angry and nobody hears you, you keep being angry.
That's a good point. Never really thought about that.
Usually it's a way of trying to say something. Anger is a way of trying to express something, and we turn it away. We change it. We don't listen to it. We put it down. We stuff it. And we get afraid of it because anger generally leads to violence. But it doesn't need to. People get angry. It's a human emotion. Mm-hmm. So how can I express anger? How can I be angry at you, for example, and own my anger? Own that this is about me. My anger sits inside of me. You didn't cause it. And that's what I'm talking about when I'm saying we don't take ownership of our behavior. We don't take responsibility. And those are the kinds of things that we explore. We explore them as exercises during the workshop.
Actually, really, really interesting. I'm actually pretty curious about it at this point.
Yeah, Saskatoon's not that far.
Yeah, that's only 1,300, however many kilometers. But that's actually really neat. I don't know if there's that many people doing what you're doing. I've honestly never really thought about this sort of thing. I guess that's one of the reasons why there are so many issues with it. But it does make all sorts of sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're afraid of our feelings, and we don't get trained. And when you go to school, you get trained reading, writing, arithmetic.
Yeah.
You don't get trained in how to express emotion, or to recognize emotion, or mostly to get that whatever I'm feeling is human, and it's me. And I love myself. What I'm feeling, I love. Even if it's angry, even if it's causing pain, it's part of who I am.
I don't remember it really ever being part of when I was in school. I don't really ever remember that ever coming up. I don't, when you mention it, I don't really ever remember emotional regulation, emotional acknowledgement, how I'm feeling. I don't really remember too much of that ever coming up to be honest with you. But
right.
It's good that you're doing that. I think there should be more of it, and we might have less issues of the sort that we're really starting to see now, that you mentioned, where everything, you can't really meet in the middle about anything anymore.
Right.
It's not easily, and sometimes at a great personal and professional cost where it need not be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's true.
So I guess what we'll do is we'll probably, is there anything else that you wanted to probably wrap it up a little bit, but I wanted to know if there was anything else that you wanted to mention.
Yeah, I'll take a look at the Log House on Facebook, or I think it's actually the Log Home. We have a Facebook page called the Log Home, and I have a meetup called Connecting in Intimacy, and I'd like to invite people to join that meetup, and I'll be keeping everyone abreast of everything that's going on here at the Log House.
Well, that's great. And for those of you that are watching, we will have the graphics that will show you all of these
great.
addresses and everything, so that you can get in touch with Eric or any of these. Make sure that they're all there. You'll be able to see them, and we'll have the contact information will be here. And you never know if I'm in the area. That I think that's actually very interesting. So by all means, get in touch with Eric and sign up for one of these. And you couldn't do it in a more beautiful area. All these beautiful windows, all the lights coming in and everything. I just can't get over how beautiful it is. It's such a beautiful, just that room. It's just stunning.
Here's that clock.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, because I don't know if I'm seeing it or not. Where am I? Boop. I guess this isn't really doing well.
I can sort of see it.
Oh, there it is. Yeah.
There we go.
Oh, look who I found.
Oh, hello. Yeah. He or she?
She.
She?
Yeah, she's on her. She's old.
Aw.
I think she's about.
Oh, hello,
15.
Tilk. I think Tilk is. No, don't knock everything over. Okay. Hey, Tilk, sit. I'll spin the camera around in a sec. What I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna. I'm gonna play it out, and I'll. But don't go anywhere just yet. I'm just gonna play it. So I'll chop some of the extra bits out, not what you just said, but just the. And then I'll just get that. I'll just do the play out bit. 1 sec. I'll get back to the. I'll go back to our double ender, and then I'll just give us a quick. All right, so thank you, Eric, for joining us. Eric, by the way, is our first guest. So, and it's funny, Eric, you were mentioning Fred Penner. Fred's actually going to be joining us as soon as he's back. He's just sort of dealing with something right now, and then he's actually going to be with us. And then tomorrow, you know Paul Chatto from the Frantics?
No.
Remember the Frantics, boot to the head?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Paul's going to be joining me tomorrow, and he sent me these, like, what do you think of these press photos? And he sent me all these goofy pictures, and I spent about 15 minutes laughing. I'm like, if I had them yesterday, I would have put them in. And we just did the normal one. It was pretty funny. All right, so make sure that you get in touch with Eric for those events. Eric, thank you for joining us. And for those of you that are watching, please, if you enjoyed what you saw, by all means, please hit that subscribe button. And as well, we've got our Patreon. And for those of you that are needing video production, guycron.com/go.